It's gesture politics. That's what this ban is. At the end of the day, it's Sarkozy trying to flex his muscles to bring in the far right to deal with what? Less than 2,000 women in France out of the 6.5 million French citizens. And it's a gesture politics which is illiberal, and it does nothing to promote a discourse and the engagement of those citizens who are contributing to French society.
Mona, you feel a little more strongly about it than that, don't you? You call the burqa institutionalised misogyny.
Yep, I believe that the face veil represents an ideology that does not believe in a woman's right to choose anything, but in her right to choose to cover her face. And the reason that I oppose the niqab or a face veil of any kind everywhere, not just in France, is that I believe it dangerously equates piety with the disappearance of women. And I do not support women's disappearance, and so I support banning the niqab everywhere.
And supporters of this ban say that the burqa and niqab, Sarah, are symbols of a fundamentalist Islam.
Look, with all due respect to you, Mona, it's not about whether I like it or she likes it. What it is about is whether the state has a right to dictate what women wear. Now, whether that's on the streets of Tehran, which says, thou shalt wear a chador, or whether it's on the streets of Paris that says, you shall not wear this because we, the state, are supreme and we believe in dictating what you wear. Now, what a woman's right to choose is the right to choose to wear that or not to wear it. To have a state institutionalised ban is saying, from a state perspective, we're institutionalising anti-Muslim discourse that is and pandering to a far-right discourse, which is completely it doesn't have a future for the Muslims in Europe.
Do you view wearing a full headscarf, a full veil, as a prison for many women? For many women, I'm not saying all women.
Look, at the end of the day, when I have a discourse with a Muslim sister who wears it, 9 times out of 10, she's doing it out of what she believes is her choice and her piety. It's her religious journey, if you like. Sometimes they wear it, sometimes they may take it off, but it's part of her religious remit. But I very rarely meet one. I can't remember the last time I met somebody who didn't choose to wear it. Whether I agree with that choice or not is irrelevant. Whether I agree with the choice of somebody to walk down the street with a pink Mohican is irrelevant. But it's about the state dictating what a woman should wear.
And Obama certainly, Mona, has said...
Can I come in
Sorry,
here?
go on. Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, I think that this is a common thing that we hear. The state cannot dictate how we dress, but in actual fact, the state does all the time. The state says you can't walk out of your front door naked. The state says, you know, there are many states here in the United States where you can't get a group of 3 or more people who are covering their face, wearing face masks of any kind. So in fact, the state does tell us how not to dress or how to dress all the time. So how come in just this one case, all of a sudden it's a huge outrage because the state is trying to tell us how to dress? You would be arrested on the streets of the UK or on the streets of the US if you walked out naked. So that's the state telling you how to dress. And when it comes to Muslim discourse, I think it's very disingenuous to say that we can have this discussion openly. We can't. That's the thing. The Muslim right wing has ensured that we can't have this discussion openly because it has placed a woman completely covered from head to toe as the perfect Muslim woman. And when I try to argue against that, I'm somehow not pious enough. Now, when it comes to the French, this is where the racism comes in. They try to use their secularism and this antagonist relationship between the state and religion. I recognize that racism in Sarkozy's government, but I recognize the misogyny in Salafi ideology behind the niqab. We must oppose them both, and I oppose them both by opposing the niqab. I want it banned everywhere.
No, we just can't go around banning things, because what that does is it says to Muslims, and Muslims say, will respond, as they are responding. You're always talking to us about freedom. You're always talking to us about your liberal values. You're always telling us how we have to accept Danish cartoons in the name of freedom. But at the end of the day, when we try to express what we want to do, and it's very small in number, let's not overblow this. 2,000 women out of 6.5 million French citizens, and that's what we're addressing, this number. The Muslims will turn around and say, we can't do what we want. Your freedom is false, it's a lie. And what we need to be, in order to be in that centre ground where Mona wants to be, is to turn around and say, you're both being irrational, but for the state, which has the power, we can turn around and say, oh, the Muslim right doesn't, but it doesn't actually have any power. In this case, France and Sarkozy has the power, and they are using that power to take a minority, and that will be taken up by the far right, and to increase this discourse, this polarisation of people, when what we actually need to do, people like Mona and myself and a whole lot of others, need to be bringing people to the table and having a discourse. And at the end of the day, what does this make young French women do? Because they're not involved in the conversation. We have refugees in Britain who are fleeing France in order to be able to work as teachers or whatever with their hijabs, let alone their niqabs, but with their hijabs just covering like I do. Refugees in Britain from France, we need to be able to say, no, France, welcome your citizens, your young girls who are wanting to study, wanting to contribute to your society, and stop rejecting them because of your pandering to far-right politics of Le Pen.